Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to be reviewing a book and it's called The Stranger Beside Me and it's written by Anne Rule. It's this one. It's almost 500 pages long. So this book is based on one of the world's most famous serial killer, Ted Bundy. And there are so many books about Ted Bundy, but this book is most special because it's written by someone who actually knew Ted Bundy. She knew this serial killer and she wrote about him. Actually, they used to be friends. Ted Bundy and Anne Rule, they used to be friends and they used to work together also. They were colleagues. They worked in a suicide crisis hotline where they attended calls together and they became really close. Ted Bundy is a very charismatic, very kind, friendly, talkative sort of a person, also very intelligent and smart, but he turned out to be a serial killer. So Anne Rule initially got a contract to write a book based on girls being murdered. They did not know who the serial killer actually was. So when she started the book, she didn't know that Ted Bundy was the one who was the serial killer. In fact, they were still friends. They were still talking. They were still traveling together. They were still sitting next to each other. So I can't imagine how it must have been for her when she found out that he was the killer. Actually, she couldn't believe it. Even after it was found that he was the killer, even after he was arrested, the author always had a soft corner for him and still couldn't believe how such a charismatic, smart young man could do this. I think this book is mainly based on a lot of mental health issues. I think that's the whole theme of this book. We talk about why exactly Ted Bundy became who he became. Even though he had everything, he had the education, he had the job, he had the looks, he had the personality, but still he became someone who murdered more than 100 women. We still don't know the exact count of how many women he actually murdered. And we don't know the exact reason why he turned out to be like this, but the book sort of discusses about his childhood and complications within his family and things like that. So that might be a reason. She actually thought that she knew him really well. I mean they were friends. Imagine you have a very close friend and suddenly they turn out to be a serial killer. You can't really accept it into your mind, and that was the same for Anne Rule. So throughout the book we can actually see that she kind of feels very confused, or she just doesn't understand how this is possible. But at the same time, she wrote this book with perfect clarity. I think this is the best crime book that I've ever read. I really like crime books, especially true crime, and I really think that she is the best true crime writer. Of course, she wrote many books after this one, but this one was the one that made her super popular. Even after Ted Bundy was arrested and he was in prison, Anne Rule actually still gave him some money to spend inside prison. She would also send some letters to talk to him, not just for the sole purpose of writing this book, but also as a friend, because she was just not able to forget that she was close to him at one point of time. This book is very, very detailed. It talks about all of the victims that Ted Bundy has raped or murdered or both, and talks about each of the murders in a very precise, very detailed manner. So it's very thoroughly researched, this book. And just the way it's written itself, you don't want to keep the book down at all. I haven't been reading books for a really long time, and then finally I bought this book and I started to read it, and I couldn't keep it down. I finished reading this 500 pages in 2 days during my exam time. So I am sure for every single person, this book will be something that you want to keep reading. You don't want to put it down. Even after the book ends, you feel, oh my god, this should not happen. I want to read more, because just her way of writing is amazing. It's very, very professional, and it's an easy read. Easy read in the sense it's easy to read the way it's written, but the things that are written is definitely very difficult to process, because of course we're talking about a serial killer here and how he murdered each person in a very detailed way. But it's actually it's very, very interesting. And you know, this whole character of Ted Bundy shows us that we should not stereotype criminals. We should not stereotype rapists or murderers. Anyone can be capable of doing anything, and that is clearly proven. I mean, everyone keeps saying that he's very charismatic, very intelligent, very capable of going to a very big position in life. But in reality, he's capable of murdering hundreds of people, and if he was not caught, he would have definitely continued to a great extent. So like I kept mentioning, the author actually knew the criminal, but that did not 100% reflect on the book. I mean, it was spoken from her point of view, but it was not very biased. She was very neutral in talking about his character and personality and why he became like that, and the things that he did. But at times she also gives her own point of view, her own opinions on him. What was very, very interesting for me was to just see the contrast of Ted Bundy's character, because this book, of course, talks about before he was known to be the serial killer, and also during his trial, and also after proving that he was the actual person who killed all of those women. So the differences in his character, the way his character develops in this book is just really, really interesting, because you go from someone who is, like I said, capable of going to a big position to someone who is, you know, going to be hanged in jail. So yeah, that's a huge, huge contrast, which is very, very interesting. So now let me just read the synopsis at the back of the book. Anne Rule was a writer working on the biggest story of her life, tracking down a brutal mass murderer. Little did she know that the young man, who was her close friend, was the savage slayer she was hunting. Ted Bundy was everyone's picture of a natural winner: handsome, caring, brilliant in law school, successful with women, on the verge of a dazzling career. On 24 January 1989, Ted Bundy was executed for the murders of 3 young women. He also confessed to taking the lives of at least 35 more women from coast to coast. This is his story, the story of his magnetic power, his unholy compulsion, his demonic double life, and his string of helpless victims. It was written by a woman who thought she knew Ted Bundy, until she began to pull all the evidence together and the whole terrifying picture emerged. So this is the synopsis, and I was just very, very hooked. And inside the book, you also have pictures, actually. This one. This one. So these are also very interesting to see in the book. Overall, I really think that you have to read this book. Like I already said in the beginning, I think this is the best true crime book ever. And if you really like crime books, especially true crime, you have to read this. And the author is also the world's #1 true crime writer. so you will not be disappointed. I also saw other reviews on YouTube and on Instagram, and everyone really recommends this book. So you will not be disappointed. Please go and read it. Okay? Bye.